Hey, people. I was going to read the beginning of John, but I wanted to look in this word Theon, get a better idea what that means. And I found this page on Wikipedia about this Theon in the 1st century BC, where somebody's trying to pass this ancient poetry off as history. And I caught it when I got here, and he was succeeded by a peon. And so if this was written in Greek, this would read a peon of a peon. It means the guy behind you. And even 3,100 years before this time, a peon meant the guy behind you. And so this is Theon, and this is a peon. You could tell he's Theon, he's the most fashionable, the ton. He was the son of a grammarian, Artemidorus, the art amid amongst adorers that we love, of torsos and head, torso of bodies and head, of the school at all its men, all its Andrew. And so lately I've been looking at this IA combination with the rules of the writing, and it's possibly pronounced as a U, and it's all its Andrew. And Theon was the author of a lexicon to the Greek comedians. So I went back to read this again more slowly, and the fashion, the light of all its Andrew was marine, was aquaculture, was the field of marine, the ocean. Who taught it? Roman, at Roman away, and taught and tight at the reins of the emperors. Og was twos, the gold was twos, and Tiberius. And he succeeded our Jews in this role. I wasn't too sure how that read, but I saw this came in 2 languages. It's in Hebrew. And so you see their spelling of Theon is to win, to the time, to win, to on. And you can see here that this phrase for and succeeded him was where's Adam come was hilarious. That's when I figured out what that word meant. The where's Adam come was hilarious. They were comedians. And so the gold was twos, the Og was twos, and Tiberius is the treasury. And so the Greek word for the treasury is thesaurus. The source is coming from the storehouse, the treasure. And it's the treasury of a poet. That's where he looks up a list of words and groups of synonyms. And the where's Adam come was hilarious. The source as whereas comes hilarious. The lexicon to the Greek comedians. In this role was succeeded was a peon. In this role is Israel. In this role. And what makes me think this is, taught at the Roman traveling in the reins. In the Hebrew, it's a broom and took up. A broom and took up. That means to practice some witchcraft, to go for a ride. The broom and took up. This is just the base word for take in the Hebrew Bible. In take up. In took up. UP, the base word for fly for the birds. The broom and took up. The officium, official. The Og was twos, would a bury us. The where's Adam come was hilarious. So you can tell, that this comes from a more ancient poetry. So he is Theon, and Theon comes hilarious. Hilarious is the highest position in the ancient school of Pythagorean or Stoic, the ancient Hooty Who's. So he was the first Theon in a line of Theons. And that's how I ran into this. Probably more closer to the time that John was written. Theon was known as the father of Daddy's little girl, Hypatia. The Daddy's little girl, the light the light on all its men, on all its drew. That's hypa, under, and pot, the father, and under father, the daddy's little girl. And so hypothetical, she was born 355 CE and died March 415. They have all kind of history on this. She wrote much, well known, and was a powerful feminist. But about her birth date, a lack of conclusive historical evidence has left the date of hypothetical. It's been looked into by the theologists with no conclusive proof. So this is possibly the first hypothetical woman that belonged to the All Its Men's Club. And this is a club where they studied papas and light and Ptolemy and hypothetically, and based it all on a sexagesimal system, the base 60, the 12-hour calendar, and the magic computer hands, the base 60 hand. And Hypatia under Patya was the daughter of a mathematician, Theon, the current, the on active, the active of all its andrew, of all its men, and was the head of a school called the Motion. And that's how you find Moses spelt most of the time in the Greek Bible, mouse, and it means move, moves, motions. So you can see in the artwork, besides she's fixing to get stoned, they're out roaming and taught on the reins. And it'd be sweet if this picture was clear enough to read this, but it appears to be Cartouche's names of times. And she constructed astrolabes, and he took in the Greek lab, and in hydrometers, all this witchcraft. She was a pagan, tolerant toward Christians, and was murdered into a martyr. And I'm sure if we read into this, it's a large page, that we'll find every word in the book of John 1. And she was martyred and given Theon, given the light, with her square. This represents 360 degrees, 4 squares, 4 corners, 360 days of the year, and the 5 days over the year. So I thought I'd hit that a little bit before I read this, because I'm going to shoot through it real fast. And hopefully you watched the last movie. I'll leave the link up here where I read the last line. So in our chain of logos, wall of goes on, prostin the on, pushing the current, and the ocean of logo. And I believe this too belongs here, and this reads, and the ocean of logos of 2-7. The N being followed by the E reads as a V of 2-7 arch. The top, on the top of your counter you have the 7 planets. And the ocean of logos of 2-7 arch of pushing the current, prostin the on. Pontu devotive. Talked about this at last movie. You can see in this other Bible, this is a different mark. And just being a placement of it tells you it's a different mark. But it means to read up to this mark above here. And so you're reading this as a D-I-A, dia, through, and then the V, and then reading this again, A-U-T. And to the devout of, the day of, his day, the one you're devout of. And pontu, devout of, ajieve to, a serve to, whicher is. This is a boon word, it means which one, which or is, and it's on the calendar, the chores, what day you got to do your chores is whicher is of to, and veg is an old word meaning lively, and the life into who would in a jigavin. Jigavin is your day job. It's talking about the days here. The jig, O-V-E-N. In our chain of logos, wall of goes on, Prostin Theon, and the ocean of logos of to seven Archproston, the rule forced on, push and prostin, and the Archproston, the current, the on, pontu devout of, serve to, whicher is of to veg into, of to life into, who'd in of a jig of in a day of in. And then it goes to telling where this god's from here. In Autozoa, in the second H here reading is I, in Autozoin. When it's talking about the gods that were self-created, auto, in self life in which is Owen. And how I got here, I am Owen. I owe my life to, which is Owen, is to Autozoan. I created myself. In Autozoan, which is Owen, to cost on and drop on. And so this cost, this is the ancient symbol, and you see it all over. And it's the opposite of this. And it means to the time, the roll. If you're flying through space and you look behind you, everything's shrinking back. And this is the cause, the Q, the center, and the O, the circle, and the S to consume. The center of the circle is consuming. Everything is shrinking in. And then in front of you, everything's getting bigger. And they'll hide this most ancient symbol all over. And you'll find it up here in the Scotia, or the capital. The oldest symbol known to be used in spiritual practices. In the first day, God said, let there be cause, tacos. That's where your word tacos comes from. It means to roll it up. Let there be roll. God said, let there be tacos. And there was tacos. And the hiding of those tacos ought to call on. Well, I just call those tacos. And through each horizon of those, a name is on to photos, and a name is on to the scotos, the darkness hidden, the hidden under the columns. And the call is in of those tacos, the day, the comer on, the east. And to the code as the darkness. Keep everything coded. And the code is the call is in. And not just the call is in, but the callus. You have to work on it. It's all coded. And the callus in us too. UCTA. In us too. A veg into. The life into. Hesifer. Venus. They say a taco is a stop or a plug or a wad. It's where you rolled your shirt up to stick in a hole in the boat. Also used for years. But the world's leading authority on tacos seems to think it means more of wrapped around. This ancient symbol found worldwide is coming from the Creator Mother. And that was Jeanette. And God said, Jeanette, tacos. Before you create the world, you got to have some food. First you make the kitchen. If you're going to build a school, you got to build a kitchen first. The school's built around. Everything you're going to create the tacos first. You got to feed the crew. And so this Janith, this is the earth, G, and Neathit. This is the ancient Egyptian god that was under the horizon, and she was creating the stars and all the heavens. Neath, the earth, G, Neath, the earth, Neath, to cause. But in autozoan, in self-life made, which is Owen, to cost on, and drop on. This is Venus here. And you see it with planet Venus here. When Venus is on the back side of the sun, it accosts. It's moving fast across the sky. You see it moving real fast. And then when it gets to this side of its loop, it's going to come down and drop in. It's going to find a spot that it wants to be. Oop. Right there at Virgo. And then it's going to drop in at Virgo, and it's going to stay in Virgo a while. Going to make this loop. It's going to make this 6 around Virgo, and then it's going to take off, and it's going to accost again. It's going to run down the road, running down the parade path, looking for girls. You're going to accost them. You run up on one you like, and you drop back, and you check her all out. Spend the night, spend a couple of nights in this house, and then you take back off, accost the next one. And so during the two accost on stage, the Venus is behind the sun, and it's just like the moon. When Venus is behind the sun, we're seeing a lot more area of light reflecting. And then when it moves around the bottom and it starts to move up on this side, on the drop on, there's less light. The light shining on the other side of it. And so to accost on is the light cycle. And a drop on is the house that it's going to stay in for a while. And to cause in the Scotia, up there on the capital, a fave, the capital is a fave, the one with the cause in it, which is WHS, which is code, KOD, and the A reads as an I. It's a double A, the first one's an I. And so this is a DIJ. And to cause in the Scotia, a fave they, which is codage. Codage is the things that have been written into code. Is the codage ought to of a settle of in. So it's also talking about a woman, a planet that's run around, accosted and drop on. She keeps running out and finding a new home. And accosting and drop on, what to cause in the Scotia fave they, the Greek column, which is codia, which is coat, which codage. The layers of paint, the codage ought to of settle of in. You ought to finally settle on a color. And, it's like trying to do a remodeling job with one of them uppity women from New Orleans, where you spend most of your time back and forth to the paint store trying to get her the right color. So let me put these first 5 lines together in its original Boone language. The inarcane, the twisted, the hidden in the words, the arcane. And in our chain of logos, the wall of goes on, proston the on, the current. And the ocean of logos of to 7 arch proston the on, or the top of proston the current. Upon to devote of, the jeeve to, the serve to whicher is, of to veg of to life into, who would in a day of in autozoan, which is owing to, cost on drop on, in the self-life on, which is owing to, a cost on and drop on, and to cause in the Scotia fave they, which is coatage of ought to of settle of in. And so I'll get down here through this next John the Baptist and up into what Moses and Jesus actually means here, where it's going to talk about the dance, and it's going to talk about the floor and all the circles and the shapes that get put in between. But I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.